The Starship launch was a success, and you're not hearing it in the media, but I'm going to explain to you why. And the sad part about it is the headlines you're seeing today regarding the launch. The people who are actually creating those headlines, they don't know what happened with Starship. They're basically probably the lowest paid people in these media groups that are handed a piece of paper and they're told to create this. In fact, many of them are just doing it using ChatGPT now, or Grok, which is my favorite. If you haven't tried out Grok, that's the X or Twitter version of artificial intelligence search engines. You need to try Grok. It will create images, it will create script, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to try to explain this Starship thing in layman's terms. And when I woke up this morning and I started looking at the media reports about how it was a disaster and the launch was a failure and SpaceX is in trouble, Elon Musk is in trouble, I actually laughed. I laughed out loud. And the reason I did that is yesterday's launch was a huge success. A huge success. Now, as a kid, I was a mechanic. I worked on cars. And many people who drive cars today don't have a clue how the car arrived. And to this day, people don't understand that the car has systems that operate separately from the car. Let me explain that real quick. As a kid, I would rebuild engines. My brothers were also very big we were into stock car racing and fixing cars. We had our own cars. I worked as a mechanic. My brother was a certified mechanic, my older brother. So I had a fascination with cars, but we would rebuild an engine, on a table in a shed, not a shop, a shed. And before we put that engine in the car, we started it. And you're going, what? Doesn't an engine have to be in a car to start? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can put an engine on a table or on a floor and you can start it without having it in a car. Now, I'm not going to get into how all that works, but trust me, it works. You can look it up. Go to Grok and figure out how. And, you get in your car today and you turn on the air conditioning and you think, well, cars always had air conditioning. No, they didn't. They didn't. There were systems that were tested and blown up and broken and fixed and discarded and changed and inserted and removed for years before that air conditioning system actually worked in a car. Nobody is a better example right now than Tesla. An electric car is not a car. It's an electric car. This is what people don't understand about Tesla. Ford and General Motors and all these other car companies, except for the real legitimate electric car companies like Rivian, right? They're just making, like Ford as an example. And I like the Ford, by the way. I like the F-150 Lightning. It's a great vehicle. And I wouldn't mind owning one myself, but I'm loyal to Tesla. But the F-150 is an F-150 with a battery. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not an electric car. Everything in a Tesla is designed around the battery, not the opposite way around. So when Starship launched yesterday, it had a series of things that it was designed to do. And if those things worked, they learned a lot of information. And again, you can look all this up. When the boosters separated yesterday, all they wanted, the booster wasn't supposed to come back and be grabbed by the big giant Megazilla arms. I'm sorry, my hands. I'm the Megazilla right now, but they didn't need the Megazilla to capture the booster. The booster was designed to do a series of firing simulations with its engines on the boost back burn, and then the idea was to drop it into the water, and it did that. And now, it blew up in the water. But we kind of don't care, but we care about it, but we kind of don't care about it. The other thing that people don't realize is yesterday was the first time that booster that was used before. See, the whole concept of Starship is to create a reusable rocket. Just like the Falcon 9. You know how the Falcon 9 takes off and then the boosters come back and they land on the ground, or they land on the drone ship? Of course I still love you, blah, 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 blah. This Starship, the goal of the Starship is to do the very same thing. Now, the other goal of the Starship yesterday specifically, they had what they call the PEZ. They have a door on the side of Starship, and in the future that door will open when it gets to orbit, and it will just like a PEZ dispenser, it will shoot out the Starlink satellites. They had those Starlink satellites inside the Starship yesterday, and they had the door set up. So they flew up. Starship, by the way, flew higher than it ever did before, and it flew higher at a steeper incline, at a steeper range, which was also part of yesterday's test. So it proved it could do that. Then when they got up to the point where they were getting ready to deploy the Starlink satellites, a sensor triggered. Something triggered. And the decision was made not to open that door. Because at that point, yeah, would it have been cool? Would it have been nice to see it open and see the little Starlink satellite shoot out? Of course it would. But they proved a lot of things, and they had a lot of success before that happened. So is it a big deal? No, it's a deal, but it's not a big deal. And whatever that sensor was, or whatever that trigger was, they'll fix that. That's not something that's unfixable. And also keep in mind that yesterday's Starship won't be the Starship that you will see in the next generation of Starship. So these are all tests. This is just like the Wright brothers. They tried to get that plane off the ground, a thing that looked like a plane, a lot of times before it actually flew. So always keep that in mind, especially when you're dealing with the media. The mainstream media are so ignorant. Anyway, let's move forward. So the next thing that was supposed to happen was it was supposed to fly to a specific altitude, which it did, and then it was supposed to re-enter at a steeper level. So in other words, they're trying to push it to where it goes straight up and straight down. Not literally, but for the purpose of this video, that's the idea. The idea is to get it straight up as fast as possible and straight down as fast as possible. So they were achieving that, but then another system triggered, another system failed, and it did fail, and then the ship began to spin. And when the ship spins, then essentially it's out of control. But what they did was, over the Indian Ocean, they had widened the area. In other words, they had cleared a wider area so that if this happened, they were still within the parameters of where they needed to be. So when it failed, you notice that they weren't devastated about the fact that this happened. And in fact, if you look up the videos, if you go on X or YouTube, there'll be a lot of videos today. The light show of it spinning out of control, and the combination of that and the plasma that's created, and the flickering of the plasma as it returned to the atmosphere is quite spectacular. I mean, it's like a 4th of July show. It's quite spectacular. So anyway, it's spinning out of control. Now they know that it's gonna break up into little pieces, and it's gonna land spread over most likely a wide area of the Indian Ocean. So that happened. But here's the real thing. One of the major tests yesterday was the tiles. You have to remember, the tiles that are on that ship, they're not just, you know, we brought the space shuttle back. It had tiles on it, blah, 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 blah. No big deal. The tiles that they're designing for Starship have to go to Mars. A whole different atmospheric system is in place as we go deeper and deeper into space. So I can guarantee you that this morning they are picking up tiles out of the ocean, out of the Indian Ocean. And those tiles are talking to them. Those tiles are being analyzed as we speak. They're an intricate part of this whole thing. They're being analyzed as we speak. Excuse me. There is data coming from those tiles that's going to be absolutely invaluable to the Starship program going forward. So the bottom line is this. You're going to see headlines today talking about how Starship was a failure, how Elon Musk is in trouble because Starship was a failure. This is their 9th ship that's been a failure, and a lot of media outlets are saying, and these are unmanned. Can you imagine if humans were in there? They'd be killing humans. You know, blah 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 blah. It's all crap, man. It's all crap. Starship will go forward. And the other thing that Elon Musk actually said yesterday in a statement, he said that the fact that they're moving forward so fast and their systems are moving forward so fast, the distance between these launches, you can call them failures, I still call them successful launches, the distance between them is going to narrow dramatically. So you're probably going to see the next Starship launch within the next 30 days. And by the way, no human life was in jeopardy yesterday during the launch, and a tiny amount of marine life was in jeopardy. And yeah, does anybody want to see even a shrimp get killed? Of course not. But if we're going to move forward, you know, medical breakthroughs, people don't realize medical breakthroughs are the reasons that we're living longer, we're healthier. But when those what would I call them, maybe even medications, when they were being designed and created, human lives were lost. So, you know, don't think that we do have to pay a price in order for us to move forward as humanity and as civilization. So yeah, there was a few fish that probably died. I think that's a small price to pay. Anyway, the media are in a desperate mode right now. I equate the media to, like, you know, the car companies like Chrysler. Chrysler is basically bankrupt. Chrysler's in trouble, right? But they keep announcing, oh, we've got this car coming up, and we've got this coming up, and that coming up. And those announcements are not, they know they're not going to survive, but they're trying to survive as long as they can, because they're trying to figure out an exit strategy. And when you see news reports today that have these terrifyingly salacious headlines regarding Starship, understand that this is a desperate move to get their last few clicks, because they're done. Most of these mainstream media corporations that we've all known all our lives are very rapidly going to go dark. So just understand, yesterday's launch of Starship was a huge success. And go online and find the videos of it. It's absolutely spectacular. I've never been more confident in that team over at SpaceX. And I back them, and I believe in them 100%. Thanks so much for watching.